The rain pelted against the windows of Tony's diner like tiny, angry fists demanding entrance. I wiped down the same spot on the counter for the third time, my reflection ghostly in the polished surface. 3 more hours until my shift ended. 3 more hours until I could collapse into my threadbare couch and forget about the stack of medical bills waiting on my kitchen table. "Coffee black," a gruff voice called from the corner booth. I grabbed the pot, ignoring the burn of the handle against my palm. The late-night shift was always quiet, except for a few regulars and the occasional trucker passing through our forgotten corner of Boston. That's why I noticed him immediately. He sat alone in the booth furthest from the door, the leather of his midnight black suit catching the fluorescent light. His presence seemed to swallow the oxygen in the room, making the air thinner, harder to breathe. I'd never seen him before, but everything about him screamed danger. From the calculated stillness of his posture to the way his eyes, dark as obsidian, tracked every movement in the diner. "Here you go," I said, setting down the mug with trembling fingers. The steam curled upward between us, a fragile barrier. He didn't thank me. Instead, his gaze crawled over my face, lingering on the faded bruise near my temple. A parting gift from my ex, Dylan, who'd disappeared 3 weeks ago after emptying my savings account. "You're new," he said. Not a question, a statement. His voice was unexpectedly soft, like velvet wrapped around a blade. "I've worked here for 2 years, I corrected before I could stop myself. Something flashed in his eyes, amusement, perhaps, or irritation at being contradicted. "I meant," he continued, as if I hadn't spoken, "you're new to me." The way he said it made my skin prickle, as if he owned the diner, the street, maybe the entire neighborhood. I retreated a step, coffee pot clutched to my chest like a shield. "Can I get you anything else?" Professional, distant, safe. The corner of his mouth twitched. "Your name?" "Emma," I answered automatically, then regretted it instantly. Men like him didn't ask for names unless they intended to use them. "Emma," he repeated, tasting it. "I'm Dante. No last name." Men like him never needed one. A car door slammed outside, and Dante's eyes flicked toward the sound. His hand disappeared beneath the table for a fraction of a second. When he looked back at me, his expression had hardened. "Your shift ends at midnight." Another statement, not a question. A chill slithered down my spine. "How did you—" "I need a favor, Emma." He leaned forward, his cologne enveloping me, sandalwood, and something metallic, like the scent of an approaching storm. "And I'm willing to pay generously for it." I should have walked away, should have told Tony I was feeling sick, grabbed my coat and disappeared into the night. But the image of those bills and my mother's voice on the phone yesterday, tired but trying to sound brave as she described her latest treatment, anchored me to the spot. "What kind of favor?" My voice sounded distant, as if it belonged to someone else. Dante smiled, a predator's smile that never reached his eyes. "I need you to pretend to be my girlfriend." The coffee pot nearly slipped from my grasp. Of all the things I'd expected, demands for information, questions about other customers, this wasn't it. Why? The word escaped before I could catch it. His jaw tightened, a man unused to being questioned. "Family obligations. My grandmother is dying. She wants to see me settled." Each sentence clipped, revealing nothing. "It's a temporary arrangement, 2 months at most. 2 months pretending to belong to a man who radiated danger from every pore. 2 months lying to a dying woman." The wrongness of it twisted in my stomach. "I don't think—" $50,000, he interrupted. "Half now, half when it's done." The numbers hit me like a physical blow. $50,000. Enough to pay off Mom's medical debt. Enough for her to try the experimental treatment her insurance wouldn't cover. Enough to start over somewhere else afterward. "Why me?" I whispered. "You could have anyone. I need someone authentic, someone who won't attract attention or ask too many questions." His eyes lingered on my uniform, my worn shoes. Someone with reasons to say yes. Shame and anger flared simultaneously. He'd assessed my desperation as easily as reading a menu. What would I have to do? Accompany me to family gatherings. Learn enough about me to be convincing. Stay in my home for the duration. He sipped his coffee, watching me over the rim. Nothing physical is required. Relief flickered briefly before doubt extinguished it. Men like him always expected something eventually. I have conditions, I said, surprising myself with my boldness. I need to be able to visit my mother, and I want the first payment before I agree to anything. Something that might have been respect flickered across his face. Done. But I have one condition of my own. He reached into his suit jacket, withdrew a small black box, and placed it on the table between us. You'll wear this, at all times. With trembling fingers, I opened the box. Inside lay a ring, platinum band cradling a diamond so large it seemed obscene. Next to it, a necklace with a pendant that looked like an ornate D intertwined with thorny vines. The ring marks you as mine, Dante said, his voice dropping an octave. The necklace is insurance. It contains a tracker. Remove it, and our arrangement ends immediately. The word mine sent conflicting shivers through me, part revulsion, part something I refused to name. A tracker meant no escape, no moments truly to myself. A gilded leash. That's more than one condition, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. The ghost of a smile touched his lips. Take it or leave it, Emma, but decide now. Outside, the rain intensified, drumming against the roof like a warning. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed, insects trapped in glass, and across from me, Dante waited, utterly still, utterly confident of my answer, because he was right. What choice did I really have? When do we start? I asked, closing the jewelry box with a soft click that somehow sounded like a cell door locking. Tonight, he stood in one fluid motion, towering over me. Pack whatever you need. I'll wait in the car. I can't just leave my shift. It's been taken care of. He dropped several $100 bills on the table, enough to cover his coffee 100 times over. Tony understands you won't be coming back. Fear crawled up my throat. You can't just decide that for me. Dante leaned down, his breath warm against my ear. I already have. His hand brushed against mine as he placed a business card on my palm. My driver will collect you in 30 minutes. Don't make me come looking for you, Emma. The threat, soft as a caress, hung in the air between us. I watched him walk away, his movements measured and precise. Through the rain-streaked window, I glimpsed a sleek black car idling at the curb. Another man, broad-shouldered and expressionless, holding an umbrella over Dante as he slid into the back seat. I stood frozen, the business card burning in my hand, embossed black letters on heavy cream stock. Dante Ricci. No title, no company name, just a phone number. In 30 minutes, I would walk out those doors and step into his world. I would become the possession of a man who collected people as easily as others collected stamps, a man who could make people disappear with a word, who could apparently buy my workplace with less effort than most people bought coffee. 29 minutes left of my old life. The realization made it suddenly, unbearably precious. I memorized it all. The cracked vinyl of the booths, the flickering neon open sign, the comforting smell of burned coffee and grease. I touched the bruise on my temple, remembering Dylan's parting words. You're nothing special, Em. Just convenient. Dante Ricci thought I was convenient too, in his own way, but something told me that unlike Dylan, when Dante was finished with me, he wouldn't simply walk away. He would make sure nothing remained. The clock's red numbers blinked. 28 minutes. I slipped into the back room, removed my apron, and reached for my coat. The weight of Dante's jewelry box sat heavy in my pocket, a down payment on my soul. 27 minutes until I belonged to the Mafia boss who needed a fake girlfriend. 27 minutes until I stepped into a lie that might save my mother's life, or end my own. The ride to Dante's home passed in a blur of rain-slicked streets and oppressive silence. His driver, Marco, hadn't spoken a single word beyond a curt miss when he'd opened the car door for me. Now, as we pulled through wrought iron gates that looked designed to repel armies rather than welcome visitors, my stomach twisted into knots. The house, no, mansion, loomed against the night sky like something from a Gothic nightmare. 3 stories of pale stone and arched windows, illuminated by carefully positioned lights that cast dramatic shadows across its facade. Old money whispered from every perfectly placed shrub, every gleaming window. "He's waiting for you inside," Marco said, his first full sentence revealing a slight Italian accent. "Don't keep him waiting." The marble steps felt slippery beneath my worn sneakers. I clutched my pathetic duffel bag, stuffed with the meager belongings I'd managed to grab from my apartment, like it might somehow shield me from whatever waited inside. The massive front door opened before I could knock. A woman in her 60s, iron gray hair pulled into a severe bun, assessed me with a single sweeping glance that somehow conveyed both curiosity and disappointment. "Miss Emma," she said, her accent thicker than Marco's. "I am Mrs. Rossi. I manage Mr. Ricci's household." She stepped aside. "Please follow me." The foyer alone was bigger than my entire apartment, with gleaming marble floors and a crystal chandelier that probably cost more than I'd earn in a lifetime. My sneakers squeaked embarrassingly with each step, leaving faint damp marks that Mrs. Rossi pointedly ignored. "Mr. Ricci has had a suite prepared for you," she continued, leading me up a sweeping staircase. "You'll find appropriate attire in the closet. I've taken the liberty of ordering several pieces in what I believe will be your size." "I brought clothes," I said, lifting my duffel slightly. Mrs. Rossi's gaze flicked to my bag, her expression suggesting she'd rather handle a dead rat. As I said, appropriate attire has been provided. Heat crawled up my neck. "When will I see Mr. Ricci?" "Once you've changed. He's requested your presence for a late supper." She stopped before an ornate door. "You have 30 minutes. The suite was larger than the entire floor of the nursing home where my mother stayed. A sitting room opened into a bedroom, dominated by a 4-poster bed draped in cream-colored silk. The bathroom gleamed with marble and gold fixtures. Everything spoke of wealth so secure it had never needed to announce itself. I set my duffel on a velvet bench and walked to the closet. Opening it felt like stepping into another world. Dresses, blouses, pants, all in muted, expensive-looking fabrics. Nothing flashy or revealing, nothing cheap. All still with tags attached. All exactly my size. A chill crawled up my spine. How long had Dante been watching me before he approached? How much did he already know? The black box he'd given me sat on my palm, suddenly heavier. I opened it, staring at the ring and necklace inside. The diamond caught the light, breaking it into tiny rainbows that danced across my skin, beautiful and cold, like its owner. With shaking fingers, I fastened the necklace around my throat. The pendant rested in the hollow between my collarbones, heavier than it looked. The tracker inside would tell Dante exactly where I was, always. I slipped the ring onto my left hand, where it sat foreign and uncomfortable. I selected the simplest dress I could find, a knee-length navy sheath, and a pair of low heels. The mirror reflected a stranger back at me. A pale woman with shadowed eyes, wearing clothes that belonged to someone else's life, jewelry that marked her as property. Mrs. Rossi appeared precisely at the 30-minute mark. Her eyes catalogued my appearance, lingering briefly on the necklace and ring. A slight nod was her only acknowledgement. "This way." She led me down a different corridor, this one lined with paintings that looked authentic and ancient. We descended another staircase and entered what appeared to be a private dining room. A table that could have seated 12 held only 2 place settings, one at the head and one to the right. Candles cast a warm glow over fine china and crystal, and there he was. Dante stood by a fireplace, the flames casting his features into sharp relief. He'd changed into what looked like casual clothes for him, dark trousers and a crisp white shirt, open at the throat. He turned as we entered, his gaze sliding over me with the same assessment Mrs. Rossi had given, but infinitely more disturbing. "Thank you, Mrs. Rossi," he said, dismissing her with a slight nod. The door closed behind her, leaving us alone. The silence stretched, broken only by the soft crackle of the fire. "You look appropriate," he finally said, gesturing for me to sit. I slid into the indicated chair, painfully aware of his presence as he took his seat at the head of the table. "Your housekeeper didn't approve of my own clothes." "Mrs. Rossi doesn't approve of most things," he replied, the ghost of a smile touching his lips. "But she's loyal and discreet, which matters more." A young man in a black uniform appeared silently, pouring wine into our glasses before disappearing again. Dante lifted his glass, watching me over the rim. 2 new arrangements. I left my glass untouched. I'd prefer to discuss the terms of this arrangement before we toast to it. Something flickered in his eyes, annoyance, perhaps, or surprise. "You're not what I expected, Emma. What did you expect?" "Someone more pliable." The word hung between us, heavy with implication. I forced myself to hold his gaze. $50,000 buys my presence and my silence, Mr. Ricci. Not my dignity. He set down his glass, studying me with renewed interest. "Dante, if you're to convince my family you're my girlfriend, you can't address me so formally." "Dante," I repeated, the name foreign on my tongue. He nodded once, apparently satisfied. "Our story is simple. We met 3 months ago. You were working at the diner. I was immediately taken with you." His tone remained businesslike, as if discussing a corporate merger rather than a fabricated romance. "You were hesitant at first, but eventually agreed to date me. 2 weeks ago, I asked you to move in. Food arrived, something Italian and aromatic that I was too nervous to appreciate. I pushed it around my plate, stomach too knotted to eat. "Your family won't believe that," I said. "Look at you, and then look at me." His eyes did exactly that, a slow assessment that made heat rise to my cheeks. "You underestimate yourself. I'm being realistic. You could have any woman you wanted. Why would you choose a waitress with nothing to offer? Perhaps I'm tired of women who want something from me." He took a sip of wine. "Or perhaps I simply wanted you." The way he said it, so matter-of-fact, so possessive, sent a shiver through me that wasn't entirely fear. I pushed the feeling aside. "When do I meet your family?" "Tomorrow. Sunday dinner at my grandmother's estate." He set down his fork. "My mother, my sister, and her husband, several cousins, and Nonna, of course." The dying grandmother. His expression hardened. "Yes, she has cancer. 3 months, maybe less." Guilt twisted in my chest. "I'm sorry. My mother has cancer too. That's why I trailed off, not wanting to remind him of my desperation. Something softened almost imperceptibly in his expression. "Yes, I know. Stage 4 metastasized to her bones. The experimental treatment at Brigham and Women's could help, but your insurance denied it." Ice flooded my veins. "How could you possibly know that?" "I know everything about you, Emma Walker. Your mother, Janet. Your ex-boyfriend, Dylan, who stole your savings and disappeared. Your student loans from the nursing degree you never finished because your mother got sick." He paused. "Your father, who left when you were 12 and never looked back." Each fact hit like a physical blow. He'd dissected my life, laid out my vulnerabilities like specimens to be studied. Why go to all that trouble for a fake girlfriend? I don't enter into arrangements without due diligence. He reached across the table, his fingers brushing against the diamond on my hand. "And I protect what's mine, even temporarily." I pulled my hand away. "I'm not yours. I'm an employee on a very short-term contract." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "For the next 2 months, Emma, the distinction is meaningless. To the world, to my family, you belong to me in every way that matters." "And the tracker?" I touched the pendant at my throat. "Is that how you typically treat your employees?" "Only the ones I can't afford to lose." He stood, circling the table until he stood beside me. "The first payment has already been transferred to your account. $25,000. I've also arranged for your mother to begin the experimental treatment next week." Relief warred with resentment. "I could have arranged that myself with the money. This way, there's no delay." He offered his hand. "Come. There's something else you need to see." Against my better judgment, I placed my hand in his. His fingers closed around mine, warm and startlingly gentle. He led me through the house, up the main staircase, and down another corridor, stopping before a door at the end of the hall. "My rooms," he said, opening the door. Alarm shot through me. "I thought you said nothing physical." And I meant it. Something like offense flickered across his features. "But if you're my girlfriend, you would naturally spend time in my rooms." He guided me inside, his hand resting lightly at the small of my back. His suite made mine look modest by comparison. Dark woods, rich leathers, and deep greens dominated the space. A massive desk occupied one corner, its surface meticulously organized. One wall was entirely bookshelves, filled with leather-bound volumes in several languages. The staff know not to enter without permission, he continued, walking to another door, which makes this the most private place in the house. He opened the door to reveal a closet larger than my bedroom at home. But what caught my attention wasn't the rows of immaculate suits or the collection of watches in a glass-fronted cabinet. It was the far wall, covered in photographs, documents, and notes connected by red string, like something from a detective movie. At the center was a photo of a man in his 50s, expression hard, eyes cold. "Viktor Sokolov," Dante said, voice flat. "The man who murdered my father." I stepped closer, drawn despite myself. Surrounding Sokolov's photo were images of buildings, other men, newspaper clippings, and off to one side, a photo that made my blood freeze, Dylan, my ex, smiling alongside a younger Sokolov. "What is this?" I whispered, unable to tear my eyes away. "The reason you're really here." Dante's voice had changed, all pretense of civility stripped away. "Your ex-boyfriend didn't just steal your savings, Emma. He stole something from me, something very valuable, and then he disappeared under Sokolov's protection." I turned to face him, finding him closer than I expected. His expression unreadable. "I don't understand. What does this have to do with me? Sokolov has been watching me, waiting for a weakness to exploit. He'll have noticed my sudden interest in you." His fingers brushed against my cheek, feather-light. "When he does, Dylan will investigate. And when he discovers I've taken something he once possessed," understanding dawned, cold and terrible. "You're using me as bait. I prefer to think of it as mutual benefit." His hand moved to the necklace at my throat, fingers trailing over the pendant. "You need money for your mother. I need to draw Dylan out of hiding, and we both get what we want. Except you lied to me." Anger pushed through the fear. "This isn't about your grandmother at all. My grandmother is dying, and she does want to see me settled." His hand moved to grip my chin, forcing me to meet his gaze. "But yes, I selected you specifically because of your connection to Dylan. Does that change our arrangement? It should have. Any sane person would have walked away immediately. But where would I go? Back to my empty apartment, to watching my mother suffer while drowning in bills. The money was already in my account. Her treatment already scheduled. If Dylan comes looking for me because of you, what happens then?" Dante's eyes darkened. "He won't touch you. No one will. Because I'm wearing your tracker, your ring? Because you're under my protection." His voice had dropped to a near whisper, his face inches from mine. "And I protect what's mine, Emma. With everything I have." The possessiveness in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, it sent a treacherous warmth curling through my body. I stepped back, needing distance from his overwhelming presence. "I want to see my mother tomorrow, before the family dinner." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded once. "I'll take you myself." "That's not necessary." "It is." His tone brooked no argument. "From now on, you don't go anywhere alone. Not while Sokolov might be watching." The reality of my situation sank in fully. I wasn't just playing girlfriend to a powerful man with a dying grandmother. I was a pawn in a dangerous game between criminal organizations. A game where people disappeared or died. "Get some rest," Dante said, his voice softening slightly. "Tomorrow will be challenging." As if in a trance, I walked back to my suite, the weight of the diamond on my finger and the tracker at my throat suddenly unbearable. I sank onto the edge of the bed, staring at my reflection in the darkened window. The woman who stared back looked like me, but wasn't. She wore expensive clothes and another man's jewelry. She'd agreed to be a possession, a lure, a fake lover. All for money that now seemed inadequate compensation for the danger I'd placed myself in. I touched the necklace, tracing the ornate D with my fingertip. For the next 2 months, this was my life. This was who I had to be. I'd sold myself to a Mafia boss to save my mother, and he'd bought me to catch a thief. Morning light filtered through heavy curtains, momentarily disorienting me. The silk sheets felt foreign against my skin, the vast bedroom unfamiliar. Then memory crashed back. Dante, the arrangement, the truth about Dylan. I sat up, heart pounding, half expecting to find Dante watching me from some shadowy corner, but I was alone. The ornate clock on the mantel read 7:30, 6 hours until I would see my mother. 8, until I would meet Dante's family and step fully into my role as his fake girlfriend. I showered in the marble bathroom, using expensive products that smelled of jasmine and vanilla. Wrapped in a plush robe, I returned to the bedroom to find Mrs. Rossi setting a breakfast tray on the small table by the window. "Mr. Ricci requested I bring this up," she said, her expression neutral. "He also asked me to inform you that he's been called away on urgent business, but will return by noon to take you to visit your mother." Relief flooded through me at the prospect of a few hours without his overwhelming presence. "Thank you, Mrs. Rossi." She paused at the door. "Mr. Ricci also asked me to remind you that for your safety, you should not leave the grounds unaccompanied." The relief evaporated. Not a respite. A gilded cage. After she left, I picked at the breakfast. Fresh fruit, pastries, coffee so perfect it made the diner's brew taste like dishwater by comparison. The diamond ring caught the light as I lifted my cup, a constant reminder of my new reality. I dressed in clothes that still felt like a costume. Slim black pants and a soft cashmere sweater in a shade of green that matched my eyes suspiciously well. The closet had been stocked with uncanny precision. Everything exactly my size, the styles conservative but flattering. With nothing else to do, I explored my suite. The sitting room contained a small bookshelf filled with classics and contemporary fiction. A desk drawer revealed stationery embossed with a simple E, as if Dante had anticipated my every need before I even arrived. The realization that I was truly trapped didn't hit until I tried the door to the hallway and found it locked. "For your safety," Mrs. Rossi had said. But safety from what? Or whom? Was Dante afraid I'd run, or was there real danger lurking beyond these walls? I pressed my forehead against the cool wood of the door, fighting rising panic. $25,000. That's what my freedom was worth. That, and the chance to save my mother's life. I had to remember that. A soft click made me step back. The door swung open to reveal Marco, Dante's driver, his expression as impassive as ever. "Miss Emma, Mr. Ricci asked me to escort you to the grounds if you wished for some fresh air." Even my jailer had a jailer. But the prospect of remaining confined in the suite for hours was unbearable. "Yes, please," I said, forcing a smile. Marco led me downstairs and through a set of French doors that opened onto a stone terrace. Beyond stretched gardens so perfect they seemed unreal, geometric hedges, bursts of late-season flowers, a fountain bubbling at the center. "I'll wait here," Marco said, taking up position by the doors. I wandered the paths, breathing in the crisp autumn air, trying to calm my racing thoughts. The estate was surrounded by an imposing stone wall, topped with what looked suspiciously like security sensors. No escape there. Not that I had anywhere to go or anyone to run to. Dylan's face flashed in my mind, now tinged with newfound knowledge. How much had been a lie? Had he targeted me specifically because of Dante? The thought made me physically ill. I'd met Dylan at a coffee shop near the hospital where my mother was receiving treatment. He'd seemed so normal, so safe. A business analyst with a steady job and a charming smile. For 6 months he'd been attentive, kind, a shoulder to lean on during the worst of Mom's treatments. Then one day, I'd returned home to find my apartment ransacked, my savings emptied, and Dylan gone. What had he stolen from Dante? Something valuable enough to place me at the center of a Mafia war. Thinking of running? The voice, deep, amused, and distinctly Italian, came from behind me. I whirled around. A man leaned against a nearby tree, tall and dark-haired, with Dante's jawline but a warmer expression. He wore a tailored suit like a second skin, and sported a smile that promised trouble. "Who are you?" I asked, backing away, eyes searching for Marco. "Antonio Ricci," he said, pushing off the tree with casual grace. "Dante's cousin. And you must be the mysterious girlfriend he's been hiding from us all." He extended a hand. "A pleasure to finally meet you, Emma." I hesitated before shaking his hand. "How do you know my name?" "The household staff talks, not much else to do in this mausoleum." His gaze dropped to my left hand. "Nice rock. My cousin never does anything halfway, does he?" My fingers curled protectively over the ring. "What are you doing here?" "Family dinners tonight." He shrugged. "I came early to annoy Dante. It's a hobby of mine. He's not here. So I've been told. Antonio stepped closer, studying me with undisguised curiosity. Which begs the question, what kind of man leaves his new girlfriend alone the day she's meant to meet his family? He had business to attend to. The lie felt awkward on my tongue. He always does. Antonio's smile didn't reach his eyes. Tell me, how did you two meet? Dante's never shown interest in any woman for more than a night. Before I could formulate an answer, a familiar voice cut through the garden. Antonio. Dante materialized from a side path, his expression thunderous. I don't recall inviting you. Antonio's smile widened. Just thought I'd welcome the newest addition to our family gatherings. You've been keeping secrets, cousin. The tension between them crackled like electricity. Dante crossed to my side, his hand settling possessively at the small of my back. Emma, I see you've met my cousin. Antonio was just leaving. Actually, I thought I might join you for lunch. Antonio's eyes gleamed with mischief. Get to know Emma better before tonight's interrogation. Another time. Dante's voice left no room for argument. Antonio sighed dramatically. As you wish. He turned to me with a wink. See you tonight, Emma. Don't let him keep you all to himself. We watched him stroll away, disappearing around a hedge. You're back early, I said, trying to break the tension. Dante's hand remained on my back, warm and heavy. I received an alert that someone had breached the perimeter. I stiffened. An alert from what? His fingers brushed against the pendant at my throat. This doesn't just track your location. It monitors your surroundings as well. The invasion of privacy was breathtaking. You're spying on me? I'm protecting you. His eyes held mine, intense and unyielding. Antonio may be family, but he has his own agenda. Don't trust him. I don't trust any of you, I replied, stepping away from his touch. Something like hurt flickered across his features before his expression smoothed. Wise of you. He checked his watch. We should leave soon if you want time with your mother before dinner. The drive to the nursing home passed in tense silence. I stared out the window, hyper-aware of Dante beside me, of Marco's eyes occasionally meeting mine in the rearview mirror. The weight of the necklace felt heavier with each mile. The Sunshine Valley care home looked shabbier than ever next to Dante's gleaming black Bentley. I hesitated at the entrance. Would you prefer I wait here? Dante asked, his voice unexpectedly gentle. The question caught me off guard. I'd assumed he would insist on accompanying me, on meeting my mother. Yes, please. I'd like some time alone with her. He nodded once. I'll be right here if you need me. Mom was having a good day. She sat up in bed, her thinning hair covered with a colorful scarf, a puzzle book open on her lap. Her face lit up when she saw me. Emma, sweetheart. She reached for my hands, then froze, eyes widening at the diamond on my finger. What on earth is that? I hadn't planned for this. Somehow, in all the chaos, I'd forgotten to remove the ring before seeing her. It's complicated, Mom. Complicated looks expensive. She peered at my face. And you're wearing new clothes. What's going on? I perched on the edge of her bed, heart hammering. I couldn't tell her the truth, that I'd essentially sold myself to a Mafia boss to pay for her treatment. But I needed some explanation for the changes she would notice. I've met someone, I said, the half-truth bitter on my tongue. He's well off. And he's arranged for you to start that experimental treatment we discussed. Her eyes widened. Emma, you know we can't afford. It's taken care of, Mom. I squeezed her hands. All of it. The treatments start next week. Tears filled her eyes. But how? Who is this man? His name is Dante. I swallowed hard. He owns several businesses in the city. Not technically a lie, though I suspected those businesses weren't entirely legitimate, and he's just paying for my treatment? Emma, He cares about me, I interrupted. The lie easier now. And he knows how much you mean to me. She studied my face, maternal intuition clearly sensing something amiss. This is awfully sudden. How long have you known him? A few months. I gestured vaguely. It's happened quickly. Is he good to you? Her gaze was penetrating. Does he make you happy? The question struck deeper than she could know. He's protective, I said carefully, and generous. That's not what I asked. I looked down at our joined hands, her thin, papery skin against mine. I'm doing what I need to do, Mom. Concern creased her brow. Emma. He's waiting outside, I said, desperate to change the subject. The treatment will work, Mom. That's what matters. She didn't look convinced, but let it drop. We spent the next hour discussing her care, the upcoming treatment, anything but Dante. When it was time to leave, she held me tighter than usual. Be careful, sweetheart, she whispered. No treatment is worth your happiness. If only she knew the true cost. Dante was leaning against the car when I emerged, sunglasses hiding his eyes, his posture deceptively casual. But I could sense the alertness in him, the constant vigilance. How is she? He asked, as Marco opened the door for me. Having a good day, I replied, sliding into the car. Thank you for arranging the treatment. He joined me in the back seat, closer than necessary. You don't need to thank me for fulfilling our agreement. The drive to his grandmother's estate took us further into the countryside. Through winding roads lined with trees ablaze in autumn colors, Dante used the time to brief me on his family. Names, relationships, what to expect. My mother, Isabella, will be polite but reserved. My sister, Sophia, will ask too many questions. Her husband, Michael, will hardly speak at all. He spoke clinically, as if describing business associates rather than family. Several cousins will be there, including Antonio, who you've already met. And your grandmother? His expression softened almost imperceptibly. Nonna Lucia is formidable. Even now. What should I call her? Nonna, if she permits it, otherwise Mrs. Ricci. I twisted the diamond on my finger nervously. What if they don't believe we're together? What if I say something wrong? Dante removed his sunglasses, his dark eyes finding mine. They'll believe it because I've never brought anyone home before. The implications of that statement hung between us. As Marco turned through an ornate gate flanked by stone pillars, the driveway wound through manicured grounds even more impressive than Dante's, ending before a sprawling Italian villa that looked centuries old. Remember, Dante said as the car stopped, you're here as my girlfriend. Stay close to me. If anyone asks about your past, keep it vague. If you're unsure how to answer something, look to me and I'll intervene. He exited the car, coming around to open my door himself. As I stepped out, his hand found the small of my back again. Possessive, protective, impossible to interpret. Dante. A woman's voice called from the entrance. Tall and elegant, with Dante's dark eyes and imperious bearing, she stood watching us with undisguised curiosity. Mother, Dante replied, guiding me forward. This is Emma Walker. Emma, my mother, Isabella Ricci. I extended my hand, stomach churning with nerves. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Ricci. Her handshake was cool and brief. Welcome to our home, Emma. Dante has told us remarkably little about you. Mother, Dante warned. Isabella's smile didn't reach her eyes. Everyone is eager to meet the woman who has finally captured my son's attention. As we followed her into a magnificent entryway with soaring ceilings and marble floors, Dante leaned close, his lips brushing my ear. Remember, he murmured, for the next few hours, you're mine. The possessiveness in his voice sent an unexpected shiver down my spine. For better or worse, I was stepping into the lion's den, a world of wealth, power, and dangerous secrets, and my only protection was the man who had put me there in the first place. I straightened my shoulders and fixed a smile on my face. I could do this. For my mother. For the money. For myself. Even if it meant belonging, however temporarily, to Dante Ricci. The Ricci family parlor reminded me of a museum, priceless artworks adorning walls, antique furniture arranged in elegant groupings, crystal decanters glinting in the afternoon light. The room fell silent as Dante and I entered, all eyes turning toward us with undisguised curiosity. I recognized Antonio immediately, lounging on a chaise with a glass of amber liquid. He raised it in mock salute, eyes dancing with mischief. Beside him sat a woman who could only be Dante's sister, Sophia, his feminine counterpart with the same striking features softened into beauty. Her husband, Michael, stood near the fireplace, his expression carefully neutral, and in the center of the room, commanding attention from a high-backed chair that resembled a throne, sat Nonna Lucia. Despite her frail appearance, thin shoulders draped in an expensive cashmere shawl, silver hair arranged in an elegant chignon, her eyes burned with intelligence and authority. Those eyes, so like Dante's, assessed me with laser precision. "So," she said, her voice surprisingly strong, "this is the girl who has bewitched my grandson." Dante's hand tightened on my waist. "Nonna, this is Emma Walker. Emma, my grandmother, Lucia Ricci." I stepped forward, willing my voice not to shake. "It's an honor to meet you, Mrs. Ricci." "Nonna," she corrected, extending a hand adorned with rings that probably cost more than my lifetime earnings. "If you are important to Dante, you are family." I took her hand, surprised by the strength of her grip. Up close, I could see the evidence of her illness, the slight hollowing of her cheeks, the papery quality of her skin. Yet power radiated from her like heat from a flame. "Come, sit by me," she commanded, patting the space beside her. "I want to know everything about the woman who accomplished what dozens before her could not." Dante released me reluctantly. "Don't interrogate her, Nonna." "Hush, boy." Lucia waved him off. "Go pour your Emma some wine. She looks like she needs it." As Dante moved toward the decanters, I perched on the edge of the settee beside his grandmother, acutely aware of everyone watching us. "Now," Lucia said, her voice lowered for my ears alone, "tell me how you met my stubborn grandson." I recited the story Dante and I had rehearsed. "At the diner where I work, he came in late one night and noticed me." "Noticed you?" Lucia's eyebrow arched. "My Dante doesn't merely notice women. He either ignores them or acquires them." "Which was it with you, I wonder?" The bluntness of the question caught me off guard. Before I could formulate a response, Sophia spoke from across the room. "What Nonna means to say," she interjected with a smile that didn't quite mask her skepticism, "is that my brother isn't known for serious relationships." "Or any relationships," Antonio added, earning a glare from Dante as he returned with my wine. I accepted the glass gratefully, taking a sip to steady myself. I was surprised by his interest, too. "Yet here you are," Isabella observed from her position by the fireplace, "wearing his ring after just 3 months." I touched the diamond self-consciously. "Sometimes you just know. And what exactly do you know about my son?" Isabella's question carried a challenge. Dante moved to stand behind me, his presence both reassuring and intimidating. "Mother—" "It's all right," I interrupted, finding courage in the role I needed to play. "I know he's private and intense. I know he works too much and trusts too little." I looked up at him, our eyes meeting. "I know he can be overwhelming and demanding and impossible." The room had gone completely silent, everyone watching this unexpected display. I turned back to Isabella. "But I also know he's fiercely protective of what matters to him. And for some reason I may never fully understand, I matter." The words felt shockingly genuine leaving my lips. Dante's hand found my shoulder, squeezing gently. Nonna Lucia's weathered face broke into a delighted smile. "She'll do," she announced to the room at large. "She sees you clearly, Dante. That's rare." The tension in the room eased slightly. Antonio raised his glass again, to Dante's good fortune then, and Emma's questionable judgment. Dinner was announced shortly after, saving me from further interrogation. The dining room proved as impressive as the rest of the house. A long table set with fine china and silver, fresh flowers arranged in a stunning centerpiece. Dante guided me to a seat at his right, with Nonna Lucia at the head of the table. The meal unfolded in a series of exquisite courses served by silent staff. I followed Dante's lead on which fork to use, which wine to sip, hyper-aware of Isabella's watchful gaze from across the table. "So, Emma?" Sophia asked between courses. "Dante mentioned you were in nursing school before you began working at the diner?" I nodded, carefully setting down my wine glass. "I had to pause my studies when my mother became ill. Cancer, isn't it?" Isabella's question sounded casual, but something in her tone suggested she already knew the answer. "Yes. Stage 4. How fortunate that she now has access to experimental treatment," Isabella continued. "Such programs are difficult to get into." My eyes met Dante's briefly. How much did his family know about our arrangement? Yes, I agreed cautiously. We've been very fortunate. Dante has always been generous. Nonna Lucia interjected, her shrewd eyes missing nothing, especially with those he cares about. The conversation shifted to family matters. Business interests I suspected were not entirely legitimate. Property acquisitions, an upcoming charity gala. I ate little, too nervous to enjoy the food, focusing instead on appearing comfortable in this world of casual wealth and power. Throughout the meal, I became increasingly aware of Dante's protective gestures. His hand occasionally resting on mine, the way he subtly steered conversations away from topics that might put me in a difficult position. His body angled toward mine as if to shield me from his family's scrutiny. Was it all part of the performance, or something more? As dessert was served, a delicate panna cotta with fresh berries, Nonna Lucia tapped her water glass for attention. Before we conclude our meal, I wish to make an announcement. Her eyes found mine, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. I am hosting a gala next month to benefit the Children's Hospital, as my health permits, of course. Dante, I expect you to attend, with Emma as your date. I froze. The implications clear. Our arrangement was supposed to last 2 months at most. If Nonna Lucia was planning an event a month away, of course, Nonna. Dante replied smoothly, his hand finding mine beneath the table. We wouldn't miss it. Excellent. She turned her attention to Antonio. And you will bring a proper date this time, not one of those models who can't string 2 words together. Antonio clutched his heart in mock offense. You wound me, Nonna. My taste in women is impeccable. Your taste in women is deplorable, Lucia corrected. Take notes from your cousin. He's finally chosen wisely. After dinner, the family dispersed throughout the house. Dante was drawn into what appeared to be a serious conversation with his mother and Michael in the library. I found myself momentarily alone, grateful for the respite from pretending. I wandered into a small, book-lined room off the main hall. Family photographs lined the shelves, Dante and Sofia as children, a younger Nonna Lucia standing beside a stern-looking man I assumed was Dante's grandfather, wedding photos from various generations. Quite the family album, isn't it? Antonio's voice came from the doorway. I turned, instinctively reaching for the pendant at my throat. Your family has a long history, and many secrets. He entered the room, closing the door partway behind him. Tell me, Emma, how much has my cousin shared with you about our business interests? I took a step back. Enough. I doubt that. Antonio moved to the photographs, picking up one of a young Dante in a graduation gown. Did he tell you about Dylan Foster? My breath caught. What about him? Antonio's eyes gleamed. So he did tell you something interesting. I don't know what you're talking about. No? He set the photograph down and moved closer. It's just curious timing. Dylan Foster disappears with something valuable belonging to our organization. 3 months later, Dante presents a girlfriend to the family, one who happens to be Foster's ex. Ice slid down my spine. That's coincidence. The Ricci family doesn't believe in coincidences. Antonio's smile had vanished, his expression now matching Dante's intensity. What game is my cousin playing with you, Emma? Before I could respond, the door opened fully. Dante stood there, his face a carefully controlled mask of fury. Antonio. His voice was deadly quiet, a word. Antonio straightened, all trace of menace vanishing behind a careless smile. Just getting to know Emma better. Family bonding, you understand. Outside. Now. Dante's tone left no room for argument. After Antonio slipped past him, Dante entered the room, closing the door behind him. What did he say to you? He knows, I whispered, fear clawing at my throat. About Dylan. About me. He knows this isn't real. Dante crossed to me in 2 strides, his hands gripping my upper arms. Tell me exactly what he said. I repeated Antonio's words, watching Dante's expression darken with each one. When I finished, he released me, pacing the small space like a caged animal. I should have anticipated this, he muttered. Antonio has always been too clever for his own good. Is he dangerous? I asked, the reality of my situation crashing down anew. Dante stopped pacing, his eyes finding mine. Everyone in my family is dangerous, Emma, including me. The admission hung between us, stark and honest. Do you want to end this? he asked, his voice suddenly uncertain. I can find another way to draw Dylan out. You could take the money we've agreed upon and disappear. The offer was tempting, escape from this web of lies and danger. But something held me back, and my mother's treatment would continue as arranged. I stared at him, searching for the catch. Why would you do that? Because I've placed you in danger, he replied simply. That was never my intention. For a moment, I glimpsed something beyond the controlled facade. Regret, perhaps. Or something deeper. But before I could identify it, his expression shuddered once more. I need to deal with Antonio, he said. Stay here. I'll return shortly. After he left, I sank into a leather armchair, mind racing. If I walked away now, I could take the money, ensure my mother's treatment, and leave this dangerous game behind. But where would I go? What would I do? And if Antonio had figured out the connection to Dylan, how long before others did too? The door opened again, but instead of Dante, Nonna Lucia entered, leaning on an ornate cane. May I join you? She asked, though it wasn't really a question. I stood immediately. Of course. She waved me back to my seat, lowering herself carefully into the chair opposite. My grandson is quite taken with you, she said without preamble. I care for him too, I managed, the lie bitter on my tongue. Do you? Her eyes, sharp despite her illness, pinned me in place. Or is there another arrangement between you? My heart stuttered. I don't know what you mean, child. I have been the matriarch of this family for 30 years. Do you think I cannot recognize when someone is playing a role? She leaned forward slightly. The question is, does Dante know you're acting? Or is he the one who wrote your script? I remained silent, trapped between truth and fiction. Lucia sighed, settling back in her chair. My grandson has never brought a woman to Sunday dinner, not once in his 29 years. Do you know why? I shook my head. Because Dante does not trust easily. Not since his father was murdered before his eyes when he was 12 years old. She spoke matter-of-factly, but I could see the old pain etched in her face. Whatever your arrangement with him, understand this. If he has brought you here, revealed you to his family, placed his ring on your finger, it is not merely business. The implications of her words settled over me like a weighted blanket. We barely know each other, I protested weakly. Sometimes recognition happens in an instant. Her gnarled fingers touched a locket at her throat. I knew my Giuseppe was mine the moment I saw him. 62 years together, and I never doubted that first recognition. Before I could respond, the door opened again, revealing Dante. His eyes moved between his grandmother and me, wariness evident in his stance. It's time we left, Nonna, he said. Emma has had a long day. Lucia nodded, allowing him to help her to her feet. Think about what I said, dear, she murmured to me, patting my hand. Sometimes the roles we play reveal more truth than we intend. The ride back to Dante's estate passed in silence. Antonio's accusations and Nonna Lucia's insights swirled in my mind, leaving me confused and uncertain. The dynamic with Dante had shifted somehow, the businesslike arrangement becoming something more complex, more dangerous. As we pulled through the gates of his property, Dante finally spoke. Antonio won't be a problem. I turned to face him. What did you do? Nothing permanent, he replied, a hint of dark humor in his voice. But he understands the consequences of interference now. The car stopped, and Marco opened my door. Dante escorted me inside, his hand at the small of my back once more. This time, I was acutely aware of the heat of his palm through the thin fabric of my dress, of the subtle possessiveness in his touch. We reached the door to my suite, and I turned to face him. What happens now? His eyes searched mine, something unreadable in their depths. Nothing has changed. You're still under my protection, 2 months as agreed. And Dylan? Let me worry about Dylan. His hand moved from my back to brush a strand of hair from my face, the gesture startlingly intimate. Get some rest, Emma. Tomorrow we begin establishing our public presence as a couple. He turned to go, but I caught his arm. Dante, your grandmother knows about our arrangement. He stilled, his expression unreadable. Nonna Lucia knows many things. Not all of them matter. she said. I hesitated, uncertain whether to share her insights. What did she say? His voice had softened, genuine curiosity replacing his usual controlled tone, that sometimes the roles we play reveal more truth than we intend. Something flickered in his eyes, vulnerability, perhaps, there and gone in an instant. My grandmother has always been perceptive. He stepped closer, his hand cupping my cheek. Sleep well, Emma. You were remarkable today. Before I could respond, he leaned down and pressed a gentle kiss to my forehead, his lips warm against my skin. Then he was gone, leaving me staring at my closed door, heart racing from a gesture that had felt nothing like pretense. Inside my suite, I removed the diamond ring and placed it in its box, then hesitated at the necklace, the tracker, my leash. I traced the ornate pendant with my fingertip, remembering Dante's words, I protect what's mine. For tonight, at least, I would remain his. Tomorrow would bring enough complications of its own. 3 weeks into our arrangement, and I'd settled into a routine that felt strangely like normalcy. Each morning, I would wake in my luxurious suite, dress in clothes that no longer felt foreign, and join Dante for breakfast when his schedule allowed. Most days he would disappear for hours on business, leaving me with Marco as my shadow. 3 times a week, he would escort me personally to visit my mother, whose improvement under the experimental treatment had been nothing short of miraculous. And every night, we would appear somewhere public as the perfect couple. Restaurant openings, charity events, exclusive clubs where Dante would be greeted with deference bordering on fear. Always his hand at the small of my back, always the diamond gleaming on my finger, always the tracker warm against my throat. It was during those public appearances that I began to notice the changes in him, the way his eyes would seek mine across a crowded room, as if ensuring I was still there. The genuine laugh that sometimes escaped him at something I said, the protective stance he adopted whenever another man approached me. The gentle touches that lingered longer than necessary for our charade. You're distracted, Dante observed one morning as we sat in his study, going over details for Nonna Lucia's upcoming gala. He'd insisted I take an active role in the planning, claiming it would reinforce our cover story. I looked up from the seating chart I'd been pretending to study, just thinking about my mother. Her doctor says the treatment is working better than expected. His eyes softened. I'm glad. We can visit her this afternoon if you'd like. We? I raised an eyebrow. Usually you just drop me off. I thought I might meet her properly this time. He set down his coffee cup. Unless you'd prefer I didn't. The offer caught me off guard. In our 3 weeks together, Dante had carefully maintained the boundaries of our arrangement, never pushing for more than our public performance required. Meeting my mother felt like crossing an invisible line. She's been asking about you, I admitted. She thinks it's strange she hasn't met the man who's paying for her treatment. And what have you told her about me? I looked away. Enough to explain the situation without explaining the situation. So she believes we're genuinely involved. Yes. The lie to my mother weighed heavier than any other part of our arrangement. She's happy I'm not alone anymore. Dante was silent for a moment, studying me with that intense gaze that seemed to see beneath my surface. Am I really so terrible to be with, Emma? The question startled me with its vulnerability. No, I answered honestly. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone colder, more ruthless. I met his gaze directly, less human. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. You make me sound like a monster in a fairy tale. Aren't you? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Instead of anger, his expression filled with something like resignation. Perhaps. But even monsters have their reasons. Before I could respond, Mrs. Rossi appeared in the doorway. Mr. Ricci, Marco needs to speak with you urgently. Dante's expression shifted instantly, the vulnerability vanishing behind his usual mask of control. Excuse me, Emma. We'll continue this later. After he left, I remained in the study, thoughts churning. Over these weeks, glimpses of the man beneath the Mafia boss had begun to emerge. His devotion to his grandmother, his unexpected kindness to his staff, his genuine concern for my mother's health. It would be so easy to forget that this was all temporary, that I was here for a specific purpose, that I was bait for Dylan. The thought of my ex had become increasingly abstract, like a story about someone else's life. Dante had shared few details about the investigation, only that there had been progress in locating him. I wasn't sure whether to feel relief or dread at the prospect of Dylan's capture. Emma. Dante's voice from the doorway pulled me from my thoughts. His expression was grim, his posture tense. We need to talk. Fear clutched at my throat. Is it my mother? Has something happened? Your mother is fine. He closed the door behind him, moving to lean against his desk. But there's been a development regarding Dylan Foster. My pulse quickened. You found him? Not exactly. He found you. Dante withdrew his phone, bringing up a photograph. This was taken yesterday outside your mother's treatment center. I leaned forward to see the image, breath catching at the familiar face. Dylan, his hair longer than I remembered, watching the entrance to the hospital from a parked car. Even through the grainy surveillance photo, I could see the calculation in his expression. He's been tracking your visits, Dante continued, his voice controlled, but with an undercurrent of fury. My security team identified him an hour ago. What does he want? The question came out as a whisper. You. Dante's jaw clenched. Or rather, what he believes you represent now. Access to me. The reality of my situation crashed down anew. I wasn't just playing a role. I was genuinely in danger. What happens now? Dante set the phone down, moving to kneel before my chair, his hands covering mine. Now we accelerate the plan, draw him out, on our terms. How? The gala. It's the perfect opportunity. High profile, heavily publicized. If Dylan believes you've truly become part of my life, he'll make his move there. Terror gripped me at the thought of confronting Dylan, of being used as bait in such a public setting. I can't! You won't be alone, Dante interrupted, his grip on my hands tightening. You'll be surrounded by security. I'll be with you every moment. Nothing will happen to you, Emma. I swear it. The intensity in his eyes made my breath catch. You can't promise that. I can. And I do. His voice dropped, becoming almost fierce. No one will touch you. No one will harm you. Not while you're mine. The possessiveness in his tone sent a shiver through me. Not of fear, but of something far more dangerous. In that moment, I realized how easy it would be to believe him, to trust in his protection, to forget that mine was merely part of our arrangement. What about afterward? I asked, needing to break the spell of his proximity. When you have Dylan and this is over? Something flickered in his expression. Regret, perhaps, or something deeper. Let's focus on getting through the gala first. He stood abruptly, creating distance between us. We'll still visit your mother today, but with increased security. And from now on, you don't go anywhere without me, not even within the house. The implications were clear. My already limited freedom would be further restricted. For my safety, yes, but a cage nonetheless. For how long? Until Dylan is dealt with. The cold precision in his voice reminded me sharply of who Dante really was, what he was capable of. And if I want to leave? To take my mother and disappear? His expression hardened. That would be unwise, Emma. Dylan has found you once. He would find you again. And next time, I might not be there to protect you. The threat, or warning, hung between us, heavy and undeniable. Get ready, he said, his tone softening slightly. We leave for the hospital in an hour. After he left, I sank back into the chair, mind racing. I'd been naive to think I could simply walk away when our arrangement ended. I was entangled now in Dante's world, in his vendetta against Dylan, in a dangerous game with no clear path to safety, and worst of all, some treacherous part of me didn't want to leave. The hospital hallway felt too bright, too exposed after the revelation about Dylan. Dante walked beside me, closer than usual, his hand resting possessively at my waist. Marco and another security guard flanked us, their vigilance palpable. You don't need to be nervous, Dante murmured as we approached my mother's room. I'm very good with mothers, despite everything. A surprised laugh escaped me. Somehow, I doubt you've met many. His lips quirked in that almost smile I'd come to recognize. First time for everything. My mother was sitting up in bed, looking better than I'd seen her in months. Color in her cheeks, hair growing back in soft wisps. eyes bright and alert. Her gaze moved immediately to Dante as we entered, curiosity and wariness battling in her expression. "Mom," I said, moving to kiss her cheek. "This is Dante. Dante, my mother, Janet Walker." Dante approached the bed, his usual commanding presence softened into something almost gentle. "Mrs. Walker, it's a pleasure to finally meet you." "Likewise," my mother replied, her eyes assessing him with maternal precision. "I've heard quite a bit about you. All good things, I hope." The charm in his voice sounded genuine. "Mostly vague things," she corrected, glancing at me with knowing eyes. My daughter has been unusually reticent about the man who swept her off her feet. I tensed, but Dante merely smiled, taking the chair beside her bed. "Emma values her privacy. It's one of the many things I admire about her." The conversation flowed more easily than I'd expected. Dante asked thoughtful questions about my mother's treatment, listened attentively to her responses, and managed to charm her without seeming insincere. Not once did he mention the cost or imply any obligation. Watching him interact with my mother, the gentleness in his manner, the genuine interest in his questions, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't the calculated performance of a man maintaining a business arrangement. This was something else. "You've given me a great gift," my mother said as our visit drew to a close, reaching for Dante's hand. "Not just the treatment, but seeing Emma happy again. I worried she'd never find someone who truly saw her value." Guilt twisted in my chest at the deception, but Dante's response caught me off guard. "Your daughter is extraordinary, Mrs. Walker," he said, his voice soft but certain. "I'm the fortunate one." His eyes met mine over my mother's bed, filled with an emotion I wouldn't name. For a moment, the pretense fell away, leaving something raw and honest in its place. "Take care of each other," my mother said, squeezing both our hands. I swallowed past the lump in my throat. "We will, Mom." In the car afterward, the silence between us felt charged with unspoken thoughts. Dante stared out the window, his profile etched against the passing cityscape. "Thank you," I finally said. "For being kind to her, for not making it about the money." He turned to face me, expression unreadable. "Is that what you expected? That I would remind your mother of her obligation to me?" I didn't know what to expect, I admitted. "This arrangement has always been transactional." "Is that still how you see it?" His voice was quiet, almost vulnerable. Before I could answer, Marco's voice came from the front seat. "Sir, we have a situation at the house." Mrs. Rossi called. Someone attempted to breach the perimeter. Dante's expression transformed instantly, all vulnerability vanishing behind cold fury. "Take us home. Now." The rest of the drive passed in tense silence, Dante on the phone speaking in rapid Italian, his tone leaving no doubt as to the consequences awaiting whoever had dared approach his property. When we arrived, the house was swarming with security personnel. Mrs. Rossi met us at the door, her usual composure slightly shaken. "What happened?" Dante demanded. "A delivery van approached the gate," she explained. "When security questioned the driver, he claimed to have a package for Miss Emma. When asked for identification, he fled." Dante's hand found the small of my back, guiding me inside with more urgency than usual. "Description?" "Young, dark-haired, wearing a cap and sunglasses. Dylan," I whispered, the name like ash on my tongue. Dante's expression hardened. He's getting bolder, or more desperate. In the safety of Dante's study, with the door locked and security posted outside, he paced like a caged predator. "The gala is in 3 days. Until then, you don't leave this house. Not for any reason." "What about my mother?" "I'll arrange for daily video calls," he interrupted, "but no physical visits. It's too dangerous." Fear and frustration warred within me. "So I'm a prisoner now?" Dante stopped pacing, his eyes finding mine. "You're under my protection, Emma. There's a difference." "Is there?" I challenged, anger pushing past fear. "I have no freedom, no choices. I'm monitored every moment." I touched the pendant at my throat. "How is that not imprisonment?" He moved toward me, stopping just inches away. "A prison is designed to keep someone in. Everything I've done is to keep others out, to keep you safe. Because I'm valuable to your plan," I said bitterly. Because you're valuable to me. The words exploded from him, his control finally fracturing. He stepped closer, his hands coming up to frame my face. Do you think this is still just about Dylan? About what he stole? My heart hammered against my ribs, his proximity overwhelming. Isn't it? It was, he admitted, voice dropping to a near whisper. At first. But now. The rest of his thought hung unspoken between us, but his eyes, usually so guarded, revealed everything. Desire, possessiveness, and something dangerously close to tenderness. I should have pulled away, should have reminded him, and myself, of the temporary nature of our arrangement. Instead, I found myself leaning into his touch, drawn to the warmth of his hands against my skin. Dante, I whispered, his name both question and answer. He closed the remaining distance between us, his lips finding mine in a kiss that started gentle but quickly blazed into something more demanding. His arms encircled me, pulling me against the solid heat of his body, one hand tangling in my hair while the other pressed possessively against my lower back. I kissed him back with equal fervor, weeks of tension and denied attraction culminating in this moment. His cologne surrounded me, that familiar scent of sandalwood and approaching storm, as his mouth claimed mine with increasing urgency. When we finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, he rested his forehead against mine. This complicates things, he murmured, a note of wry humor in his voice. Everything about you is complicated, I replied, finding unexpected laughter bubbling up despite our situation. His thumb traced my lower lip, his eyes darkening. We should talk about what this means. Later, I agreed, knowing we needed to address the shift between us, the implications for our arrangement. After the gala. After Dylan. He nodded, reluctantly creating space between us. After Dylan, he echoed, a promise in the words. The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparation and heightened security. True to his word, Dante never left my side, even sleeping on the couch in my sitting room, rather than returning to his own suite. Our kiss had changed something fundamental between us, transforming pretense into something genuine and fragile. We didn't discuss it. By unspoken agreement, that conversation would wait until after the immediate danger had passed. But the way he looked at me, touched me, protected me, those spoke volumes. The night of the gala arrived with a flurry of activity. My dress, a midnight blue gown that flowed like water, had been specially selected by Dante himself. As I stood before the mirror, fastening his necklace at my throat and sliding his ring onto my finger, I barely recognized the woman staring back at me. She looked confident, elegant, worthy of standing beside a man like Dante Ricci, no longer just playing a role, but inhabiting it. A soft knock at the door preceded Dante's entrance. He stopped abruptly at the sight of me, his expression momentarily unguarded. "You look beautiful," he said, the simple words carrying more weight than elaborate compliments ever could. He crossed to stand behind me, our reflections forming a striking pair in the mirror. His hand settled on my shoulders, warm and steady. "Are you ready for this?" The question encompassed so much more than just the evening ahead. Was I ready to face Dylan, to acknowledge what was developing between Dante and me, to accept that my life had irrevocably changed? I met his eyes in the mirror, finding strength in his unwavering gaze. Yes. His lips brushed against my temple, a gesture of affection that had become natural in these past days. "Stay close to me tonight, no matter what happens." "I will," I promised, turning to face him. "Dante, after tonight, when this is over, what happens to us?" The vulnerability in the question hung between us, impossible to take back. His hands cupped my face, his expression more open than I'd ever seen it. "What do you want to happen, Emma?" The truth spilled from me before I could stop it. "I don't want this to end." Relief and something like joy flashed across his features. "Then it won't," he said simply, as if rewriting our arrangement was within his power. Perhaps it was. His phone buzzed, breaking the moment. "The cars are ready," he said after checking the message. "It's time." As we descended the grand staircase, surrounded by security, I realized with sudden clarity that tonight would change everything, one way or another. Either Dylan would be caught and our charade could end, or something would go terribly wrong. Dante's hand found mine, squeezing gently as if sensing my thoughts. Trust me, he murmured. I won't let anything happen to you. And despite everything, despite the danger, despite the lies that had brought us together, I did trust him, not just with my safety, but with something far more precious and fragile. My heart. Whatever came next, we would face it together.